Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain and welcome back. Now today I wanted to touch on the second thing that occurred to me as a result of Hannah and I going out for the day for our anniversary in London the other day. And the main thing that we went to do was we went to go and see the London Aquarium. Because I love the London Aquarium. And Hannah I don't think has been there since she was a kid. So, and I haven't been there in the last few years either, especially since they actually fully rebranded to being like a sea life centre. And so, you know, it was something that we both wanted to do. If you hadn't noticed, with me playing Subnautica, I love me some underwater. So you know, it was a just an excuse to go and do something fun. Now, as I said, I've not been in a while. In fact, I think one of the last times I went, it barely cost me anything to go and visit. And Hannah definitely hadn't been for a long time. So, you know, we were surprised when we got there just how penny pinching the whole place was. And there are a couple of things that stand out to me, because it seems to be very hypocritical thinking in regards to the way that the place is run relative to what the place is trying to communicate. And I just wanted to raise this as a point of discussion, because I've seen this a lot over time in various places, especially when I was travelling, seeing various reserves or museums or things like that were all making a point of basically turning themselves into pretty heavy businesses, trying to drain as much money from the people that pass through as possible, whilst also claiming to communicate a message of education or freedom or kind of access, conservation, whatever. And so it seems really contradictory, because yeah, you're talking about conservation and all that kind of thing, but you're also making a point of going, yes, conservation, and we want to educate you people about this, but we will only educate you if you've already paid possibly a good £100 or so for your day here. And that just didn't add up to me. So I want to run through the stuff that happened. So it's like it's fairly expensive for a ticket in the first place, and you know, there are various deals that are offered through various things in London that allow you to get in for cheaper. You know, like the one thing that was kind of slapped everywhere was that for £55 you can go to 5 events, or five attractions, with each attraction usually costing about £20 for entry anyway. So, you know, ordinarily you'd be paying about £100, so you're getting just under half price if you take advantage of this deal to go and see all 5. So that was kind of, you know, there were all kinds of offers and other things around the place. But then, you know, you have your bag search, because obviously it's an attraction, it's in central London, so they need to, and that's all well and good. But then as soon as you get past that part, they force you to stand there and have your pictures taken, and they won't let you proceed without that happening. And it's like, well, no, hold on, I've just paid for this. If I don't want my picture taken, then I shouldn't have my picture taken, because I've already been checked by security. I've had my bag checked, I've had my pockets checked, I've had a metal detector waved all over me and whatever else. Gotten uncomfortably close to a security guard, and so, you know, there's already all of that you've done. So why am I having my picture taken? And especially considering it was a novelty bullshit picture for something anyway. And we were like, right, okay, sure, fine. We'll just do this to get past. And then we got past, and it was fine. And then we got into the rest of the place and the various tanks of all kinds of different sea life. And then they've also got some other stuff in there that was just really cool. You know, I creature, like when I was in school, I wanted to do biology. I wanted to do genetics, because the ins and outs of creatures generally, and all of the weird differences and all of the adaptations and stuff are fascinating to me, which is why I spent so much time going through the Codex on the PDA on Subnautica, because that kind of stuff just fascinates me. Breaking it down all the way into to gain as much information as we can on, especially creatures. I love me some big creatures, but coming to what I think it was probably about the halfway mark throughout the whole thing, there was a novelty kind of hologram or 3D image picture thing that you could buy, and that was £20. And so you had the large amount to pay to get in anyway, arguably day to day, which I believe was about 20 something pounds each for just people walking in off the street, no deal, no nothing, no offers or whatever. And then you get into the main exhibits, and the main exhibits are wonderful. And you've got a lot of information there, you've got all kinds of different creatures, and you've got videos of them doing conservation and all that kind of thing. And that's all well and good. But again, you've already potentially had to pay an awful lot to get in there in the first place, which would probably turn a lot of people away. So no one's benefiting from this extra level of education around conservation and around other stuff. And then you've got these other things that are much more expensive than they are really warranted, than they really could or should be. Especially the 3D image was basically a printout of a photoshopped image, then with a piece of plastic over the top that gave it the 3D effect, essentially. And it's like, okay, so that's hardly the most expensive thing to produce. But there you go. And then moving on, you then go through another couple of their exhibits with their other creatures and things like that. And again, those were wonderful, those were informative, those were great. But then coming out the other side of it, you've got obviously the gift shop, which you would expect, and it's a central London attraction, so you would expect more those to be more pricey anyway. Fair enough. But then those pictures that we had taken right at the very beginning, against our will, I would add. If we had said no and just wanted to keep going, then they didn't seem to want to let that happen. Those were being sold back to us for what? I think it was somewhere in the region of about 20 to 30 quid. So it's like, okay, so if I've gone for everything, so let's say that we're walking in off the street, and there were two of us, so you've got 40 quid for tickets if we hadn't had an offer. Then we've had all of this stuff impressed upon us. Even before we've seen the exhibits, even before we've seen anything, we're having photos taken, and we're being kind of shoveled off in different directions. And then and that's all purely in aid of selling us something later on. And again, I realised that the conservation efforts that they are undertaking and that they are involved in, incredibly important. The exhibits, the animals there, they need maintenance, they need care, and so yes, again, those are definitely going to cost some money. However, draining money from people that come in and kind of strong-arming them into giving you that money to support those creatures seems like it left me feeling like we had been taken advantage of for what would otherwise be a completely great cause. Like if they were more upfront with things and they weren't just trying to nickel and dime people as they come through, whether it's for a good cause or whether it's for just turning a profit, it's unclear. But it just kind of gets to me the something that is so important, conservation, education about the things that we share this planet with, is first put behind a paywall in the first place because of the large price of entry, and then is like broken up by pushing more and more in the way of money on you, pushing more and more in the way of costs on you, and trying to get your money. And I'm like, how could you change that? How could you shift that to make it more worthwhile? And part of me is like, well, I feel like things like this don't benefit from enough exposure. Firstly, and part of the reason for that, even though it's a big attraction in London, part of the reason why it doesn't get more attention is probably because of the pay, the amount that you would have to pay just to enter. Um, but also, then moving through, I would feel less resentful if the things that we were offered for money, which granted, we, because of what they were for the most part, we declined them. If they had been of slightly greater quality, slightly greater import, something more interesting, then it would have been far more worthwhile. One of the things that stood out to me was that in a lot of museums and things like that, you can pay for a guidebook. You know, £5 for a guidebook that is basically a souvenir of itself with a whole load of information about where you are and what you're doing and what you're seeing. And there was none of that. It was literally, pay, get in, go through, get out. And make sure that we take as much of your money as we can as you go, rather than presenting a lot of information to us and making things worthwhile for us actually being there. And in kind of hindsight, as we were wandering then through the rest of London for going and getting food and having a nice rest of the day, the thing that stood out to me was, as much as I enjoyed seeing the creatures, as much as I enjoyed the little bits of information that we did pick up and all the rest of it, it felt like a really worthwhile cause. Education about what we share this planet with, how their environments need to be conserved, all of the efforts that are going into protecting those environments and things like that. All of that had been hijacked just to make more money. And I don't know how many other people came out feeling the same way, but that was the thing that kind of sat in the back of my head and kind of grew and developed the more I thought about it. That we had just gone in, and yes, we'd had a nice time. I can't stress that enough. I had a lovely time with Hannah. And seeing her reaction to the weird eyes of a guitarfish were terrific. But at the same time, it was a case of going, in the aftermath, as I've walked away from that, and as I'm analysing and thinking over that experience as the day progresses, and as the week progressed afterwards, a really good cause, again, has been hijacked, seemingly by people just looking to take as much money through it as possible. And if that's not the case, then that means that the initial experience wasn't structured well enough and didn't communicate well enough to inform the rest of my day and inform my thinking on it afterwards. Would I go back there? Yeah, probably. I would love to take my kids to see the London Aquarium as, when and if I ever have children. The creatures that they have there, there's nowhere else that you're going to be able to go and see some of those creatures as easily and experience and learn about them as you can from zoos, aquariums, aviaries and things like that. Without those places existing, you're not going to be able to show children and educate children on those things. And yes, there is something to be said for animals remaining in the wild, but obviously there are some that can't be. Some that have grown in captivity for a long time and would no longer survive in the wild as a result. And so, there's you've got those that need to be conserved in some ways, and those establishments grow around that kind of thing. And so, yes, would I take people there again? Would I go there again? Yeah, probably, but I would be far more wary about the expenses, how the staff, more so at the entrance and the exit. The staff in between, informative, lovely people, had a lot of nice conversations about the various creatures that they had there, learned some interesting stuff. But the ones that were at the entry and the exit were seemingly just there to kind of just pile us through as fast as possible and take as much money out of our wallets as they could as we went. And I feel like that was the most detrimental thing for the rest of what was going on in that place. And so I wanted to bring this guy to you guys, because obviously I love me some museums, and mostly, at least in London and so on, museums tend to be free, and you can kind of enter and exit and wander around and whatever else, and then they make money through donations and through their gift shops and things, more so because they are supported as institutions by the government. But that's obviously not the case everywhere, and as said, zoos, the aquarium that we went to, and so on and so forth, that actually put across the message of that is incredibly important, and not just remember the past, but more specifically, this is the world that we're living in now with the other creatures that we're living in now, and this is what's happening to their homes, and this is what we can do to help. Those important messages being hijacked and being used to make money to this extent seems detrimental to me. And so I'd love to hear from you guys about what you've experienced. Where are you? Where have you been where you've maybe experienced a similar kind of feeling after you've been to a certain place? When you've visited somewhere that's supposed to be an educational establishment, or a place that's preaching conservation, and yet all you've really ended up with is feeling that you've got kind of shortchanged from the whole thing. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on remedying it as well, because as said, there are going to be large costs involved, but whether or not it's just a means, I have a feeling it's just a case of communication that left me feeling with that kind of aftermath kind of feeling in me of going, that we just got kind of taken advantage of. Our goodwill, our interest, and our want for knowledge has just been leveraged to get as much money out of our pockets as possible. But it's like, I'd love to hear other thoughts and other ideas around this, because I'm still thinking, if they had communicated it better, if they had offered more in terms of additional information to us, and maybe if the staff hadn't been quite so aggressive with trying to push we need to take your money from you, maybe just a little bit of customer service best practice stuff in there would have been of benefit. But I would recommend going to the London Dungeon. That's next door, the London Aquarium. But otherwise, it was just a really odd feeling that it left me with, where I just felt like I'd been not taken for a ride necessarily, but where me wanting to go and educate myself, see things, learn more, was being taken advantage of. And we're seeing that a lot these days in various places. Universities being a big one, where especially in the States, many universities are being pushed far, far more towards businesses. We're in the UK not exactly far behind on that these days. And so, it's that leveraging of things that would otherwise be enriching and positive and worthwhile, just to spin more money for certain groups of people. It's concerning to me, especially when there seems to be this very blunt kind of push to take your money, rather than it being something that's more open and transparent to show why the money is needed, why they want your involvement. But anyway, guys, as said, I'd love to hear your thoughts and your experiences from places that you guys have been. But otherwise, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the video later. Take care. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, then please drop us a like, share this video, and subscribe for more. And I'll see you in the video later. Take care.